Today, I want to paint the picture of the past, specifically my past. So, I want to talk to you about the way I was raised. And I wish I could just say, I was raised Mormon. I was raised a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. But that means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So, that's the point of this video, is to paint you a picture of where I came from as best as I can. The church was my entire life growing up. I wanted to say a huge part of my life, but it was everything. And it started from, the day I was born. Then I was baptized at age 8. I did all the primary. I probably missed church maybe a handful of times growing up. I never missed church, and that included vacations. I went up through high school. I graduated seminary. I was all in. I made mistakes. I was a teenage boy, but when I say I was all in, I was all in. I recently opened a time capsule from my junior or senior year. We did an English class project where we all wrote a note to our future selves, and mine was a bunch of garbage except for the part where it said that I hope that you are married in the temple because that's all that matters. And that should show you where my mind was at. There was no future for me except in the church. After high school, I went up to Utah State. I was up there when I got my mission call to Brazil, and I served a 2-year mission in Brazil. Then I got home, met my wife, and within a year and a half of being home from my mission, I was married in the temple. I checked every box you were supposed to check, and I loved it. It was great. Now, I'd like to introduce to you a concept that, if you're a person that's gone through a faith crisis, you might have heard it. But it's a concept called a shelf. And a shelf is where you put, it's a metaphorical place where you put the concepts in your life that you can't make sense of, that you don't have answers for, and it causes you to doubt or to question. So if you come across a concept that your leaders don't have answers for, or that you don't have answers for, your parents don't have answers for, if this question, this concept, this topic causes you to have a decrease in faith, then you put it on your metaphorical shelf, this hypothetical symbolic shelf. So think of putting books back there. And the idea is that over time, many people's shelves will break because of the weight of all of these topics that they don't have answers for, and they're not able to resolve in their life. And so the thing that I want to tell you about my story, up until this point, up until 2016, I am 26. I can come to you right now and be completely honest in saying that I had 0 doubts, 0 concepts, nothing was on my shelf. And I'm not saying that because I was super intelligent, was able to resolve these issues. I'm saying that because the idea of having even a question was foreign to me. I didn't have any doubts. I'm sure I came across some concepts, but it wouldn't even stay in my brain long enough for me to think, let's think about this for a second. Let's stop and analyze this. It was seriously I would touch it as I passed by, and I would hardly even notice these concepts, and immediately just out of my brain. It wasn't I don't understand this, let me put this on a shelf. It was just a passing thought. And that's literally all that it ever was for me. That's due partly to ignorance, but it's also due mostly to a lack of critical thinking in my life. So when I tell you that at age 26, I knew that the church I belonged to was the only true church, and that it was through this church that I was going to live with my family forever. And like, I knew that. Not in the sense that like, you know, I know my church is true and theirs isn't. It was like, it just was. It just was true. Like the same way that I know that this is a rock right here. The same way that I know that the sun provides heat. The same way that I know that grass is green. Like, it was just 2 + 2 = 4. It just was. There was no question. To question was literally not even in the realm of possibility for me. So, as I kind of told that story, I hope I was able to paint the picture of the Garden of Eden. Because up until that point, up until 26, I hadn't really made choices for myself. You know, like every decision I ever made was made for me, in the sense that the church dictated. Hold on. You gotta get out of the wind. As I was saying, I haven't really made a choice for myself, in the sense that all these choices were already made for me. The church dictated, implicitly dictated who my friends were growing up, what I did growing up, like the media that I consumed, the thoughts that I had, the decision to spend 2 years of my life in a foreign country, the decision who I married, the decision where I studied, the decision what I studied. Like, the church is so much intertwined in my life that there was no differentiation between the church and the church's thoughts and the church's plan for me and my own plan. And people will say, "Yeah, you had your agency, you could have done whatever you wanted." I couldn't have. Like, it was literally not an option for me to not go to church, for me to not serve a mission, for me to not get married in the temple. It didn't even cross my mind as an option because of, you know, it was just the way I was raised. And, you know, like, the consequences of me leaving were high, but they didn't even cross my mind. Like, leaving, not going to church, doubting, all of that, it didn't cross my mind. And so, literally, this picture I painted you, I want you to know that it was my own personal Garden of Eden. In the sense that I hadn't made big choices for myself. Don't get me wrong, I wasn't perfect. I wasn't not sinning. Like, I made mistakes. What I'm trying to say is, like, these big decisions, like, that guided my life, the driving force behind my life was not my own. So it was, in a way, not perfectly, the metaphor's not perfect, but it was in a way like the Garden of Eden. There's a Carl Jung, I think that's how you say his last name, quote that says, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." So similarly, in my life, the dictations, the guidance of the church was unconscious, and it was guiding my life despite the fact that I didn't know it was. But when I shined a light on that unconscious behavior, I realized that though I thought I was autonomous and independent and free thinking, that I really wasn't. I had deferred my critical thinking and my free thought to the church and church leaders, both like the large church leaders and also local church leaders. And I had deferred my free thinking to them. I had given my critical thinking away, and I was living life by proxy. It was like I was at the helm of the ship, as I was steering, and that ship being my life, but it's like the steering wheel wasn't attached. It's like I wasn't the captain of the ship, even though I was supposed to be. So, back to 2016. You'll hear 2016 come up quite a bit in my story. But back to 2016, I was in a team meeting at work, and someone casually brought up in the team meeting that Joseph Smith was a polygamist, and so that means that he had multiple wives, if you live under a rock and don't know what polygamy is. And before I could correct this person, another person in the meeting confirmed that he was in fact a polygamist, that he had multiple wives. And at that point, I didn't want to say anything and correct two people, because I thought, why would both of them say that? Because I had defended Joseph Smith to the death on my mission, I had defended the fact that he was not a polygamist multiple times on my mission. And I thought, on my mission, I thought, I've been in this church for 19 to 21 years. If Joseph Smith was a polygamist, I would know. Anyways, back to that team meeting. After the two people said that he was a polygamist, I went back to my desk and I typed it into Google. And it was confirmed to me that he did have more than one wife. And the feeling that I had in that moment, I didn't think I'd get emotional right now, but not yet. It was like getting kicked in the stomach. I went home. I think I mentioned it to my wife that day, and she hadn't really heard it either, which made me feel a little bit better. But it was in that moment, coming back to the Garden of Eden, that I was having my Eve moment. I was being presented with the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. I was being presented the opportunity to learn and have an increase of knowledge on what I thought I already knew. And let me tell you, not only did I take a bite, I ate the whole damn fruit. Lying in my bed that night with my head spinning, I decided that I would never feel like that again. I never wanted to be blindsided. I felt so stupid, even though no one knew that I didn't know in that team meeting. It's not like I stood up and said, I didn't know that. But, I just felt so stupid. And so I decided to go head first. I dove in. I was through the gospel topics essays so fast on the church's website. I was reading every book I could get my hands on at my parents' house. I'm kind of getting into the next part of the story, but I just wanted to finish off that metaphor of the Garden of Eden. So anyways, I went back to that coworker that, said that Joseph Smith was a polygamist, and I kind of admitted to her that, I didn't know that. And she recommended a podcast to me called A Year of Polygamy by Lindsay Hansen Park. And that was, like I said before, that was me jumping off the cliff head first into the rabbit hole. And it became all-encompassing. And this is a little foreshadowing into my next part, but let's just say it got pretty dark. just wanted to quickly edit and say that even though I had a terrible feeling, you know, after I found out that Joseph Smith was a polygamist, like, it didn't change anything. Like, I wasn't like immediately thinking like, oh no, like the church isn't what it says it is, or the church lied to me, or the church isn't true, or anything like that. It was like nothing changed. It was just like I felt like I was blindsided by something I should have known. So I kind of took it on myself. But yeah, I'll get more into like what that all led to in the next one.